Can they hear me?
Yep, they should be able to.
Hey, Ryan.
They can't talk to you because we muted them though.
I see you. And Lincoln, it looks like you're in the fog there. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Should be able to.
Hey, Ryan. Recognize some faces. That's awesome.
Do you? Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Hang on just a minute. Let me grab that. I'm back.
All right, let me just double check this here.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Awesome. Good job. I can't hear you yet, but later on, we'll open it up to some, if you guys have some questions, you can ask me the questions, okay? So we'll open up so I can hear your voices.
Yeah.
And you won't have to listen to mine all the time.
All right, well, we're going to get started here. So first off, I want to let everybody know that we will be recording this event, and then we will be putting it on our YouTube channel later today or first thing tomorrow morning. So I just wanted to let you know that. We will also be spotlighting Chris, so he will be the main part of the show while he's talking to us. And then we will change that so that he'll be able to see you during the question and answer session. A little bit of housekeeping. Right now, everybody's microphone is muted, and there'll be a time for questions and answers at the end, and you'll be able to unmute yourselves if you have a question or you'd like to talk to Chris. Notice the participants button on your Zoom interface. If you click on that, a box will open up that you'll show the raise hand and mute and unmute options. Now, depending on your device, you may see these in your toolbar, or they may be visible if you click on the More button. It just depends on what machine you're watching this on. You may also type your question or comment into the chat box, and I will mention these to Chris. So also, for those of you watching on Facebook, please type your comments or questions into the chat box, and we will make sure that we read those to Chris as well. This event is funded in part by a grant from the Maine Bicentennial Commission, and that's the end of our housekeeping. So now back to our regularly scheduled program. Welcome to the Bangor Public Library Summer Reading Kickoff. We're so thrilled to have Chris Van Dusen join us today. We have programming for all ages this summer, so visit the Bangor Public Library website to find out more information. You may also contact the youth department for information about children and teens programs this summer. And if you have questions about programming for adults and families, contact the reference department. I'll send out an email to all of you and also post the information in our Facebook feed after we finish today with all the website links and contact information for the two departments. We'll also have a link to a survey that we'd like to have you fill out. And we'll also put that in the Facebook comments as well. This will assist us in planning our programming for all of you as we move into the future, and probably we'll be continuing to do events online and then combine that with live events when we are able to do so. I've known Chris for several years now, back to a time when I worked at Horton Bookstore in Stonesville. Through our work with Island Readers and Writers, a reading and literacy organization that focuses its work toward Maine Islands and Down East communities. Chris is a champion of writing for children with children in mind, and his illustrations add such life and draw a reader into the story. I want to know, how long did it take you to find the camel in the circus ship? I can't find it whenever I look at that book. It takes me forever. Well, Chris is born in Maine, Portland, Maine, exactly, and now he lives in Mid-Coast, Maine. So he's a Mainer. Loving to draw since he was a child, he started his work as an artist, creating cartoons and illustrating for magazines such as Nickelodeon and Disney Adventures. Then one day, Mr. Mcgee and his little dog Dee hopped in a car and drove down to the sea. It kept running through his head. Well, we know how that turned out. Magic. We've been reading his books and the books he illustrates for other authors ever since. And now, without further ado, here's Chris.
Thanks, Candy. Hi, guys. I'm so glad you joined me today. It's an honor to kick off the summer reading program. I hope you guys have some really great books in your lineup. I thought what we'd do today is I would first show you around my studio the best I can. I'll be walking around with my iPad and showing you where I work. And then we'll read a book. I think we'll read my newest book, which is called If I Built a School. And then after that, we will open it up to questions and answers. If you guys have anything you'd like to ask me, and I've already seen a couple of questions pop up on the screen, so I will answer those as well. So let's start with my studio. I live in Camden, Maine. I work right out of my house. The studio's over on the second floor of a barn that we built. And I'm going to unplug my cable here. Try not to cover my phone camera here, my iPad camera. But I'm going to turn around here and I'm going to show you. This is where this is the table where I work. And I've got that box set up because that's what I was propping my iPad on. Over here, you can see there are some plastic plates with some colors mixed up on them, because that's what I use for palettes. That's what I use to mix my paint. And I also will label my colors because I'm just now starting a brand new book. I'm starting to work on the illustrations for a brand new book, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. There's some of my paint water down there and some of the paint brushes that I use. So I usually sit here every day and I work on my illustrations. If we turn right around here, you can see I have a whole big collection of robots that line up all along my flat files. I love robots. If you guys have read some of my books, you probably know that because there's usually a robot in there somewhere. And then there's some more of those plastic plates with some colors that I've used for the new book. Those are some sketches underneath and some of the work. And the new book is about a giant truck. So I actually went and bought a truck model. And I just discovered this weekend that it does this. Watch this. The lights, I never knew the lights lit up. And it makes a noise, a truck noise. So I'm using that as reference for my new book. It's kind of loud, isn't it? I'm using that as reference for my new book, and I do my sketches from that model because I can look at it from different angles. Here are some things on my flat file that I've collected from different people. This is kind of cool. This is a rock that someone painted for me when I was way out, and they gave it to me when I was out in California. I was on a book tour, and this woman came up right before I was starting to talk, and she gave me this rock that painted Mercy Watson. It was a little tricky getting this back home on the plane because when I went through the security at the airport, they pulled me aside and they said, "It looks like you have a rock in your suitcase." And I said, "Oh yeah, I do." And so the TSA agent pulled it out and she looked at it and she goes, "That's adorable." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's a rock, but it is pretty cute." So she let me come through with the plane. Over here, I've got my copy machine, got some skylights. Again, it's kind of a lousy day. And then back over here, the big plant. I've got a flat file here, and this is where I keep all of my original art. So you can see right there, it says Down to the Sea with Mr. Mcgee, OA, that stands for Original Art. And I've got them all in these boxes lined up. I've also got some extra books that the publisher has sent me that I can donate to auctions and things like that. And then again, we're back around to the drawing table where I work. So I'll try to prop this back up so you guys can see, and pull my chair up. And if you guys are ready, I think we should read a story. So like I said, I think we're going to read If I Built a School, my latest. My first book, of course, was, as Candy mentioned, Down to the Sea with Mr. Mcgee. But this is my latest. This came out last fall, and it's the latest book that I've written and illustrated. Actually, there was a book that just came out last week, but it was this book. It's called Stella Endicott and the Anything is Possible poem. This was written by Katie Camille. This is part of the Tales from Deckwood Drive, and I did the illustration. So this is my newest book, but this is the latest book that I've written and illustrated. So if you guys are ready to hear a story, let's look at this. I'll point out some things too along the way. I'm actually going to take the cover off so it doesn't get in the way. And then when you open up the book, on all the If I Built books, it starts with a spread that looks like this. And these are called the end papers. And on this book, I thought it'd be really fun to make the end papers look like they were a drawing done with chalk on an old chalkboard, because this is a book about school. And so these are some of the drawings that Jack, the main character, has done to develop his school. He's drawn some things, some he likes. He kind of likes this one, which is sort of similar to what's in the book. Here's one that's called the Moon School. This is one of my favorites, Fantastic Underwater School. That would be fun. But some he doesn't like. He thinks that's too traditional, so he crossed that one out. There was another one. Oh, he didn't like that one. He didn't like this one. He thought that was a little bit too corny. So these are some of the ideas. And when we go to the second, we go to the end of the book, we'll also see the end papers, but we'll get to those, and those are different than these. Next page we come to is called the title page, with the title, my name, the publisher's name. And usually when I go to book signings, this is where I usually sign my name and put the kid's name right on that space right there. So that's why there's a blank spot on the lawn. But here's Jack. He's the main character in the book. And he is looking back at the school while the rest of his classmates run out to the playground. So maybe Jack is thinking he can improve on this school. What do you think? I bet that is. All right, so let's read the story. Here we go. Jack on the playground said to Miss Jane, "This school is okay, but it's pitifully plain. The builder who built this, I think, should be banned. It's nothing at all like the school I have planned." If I built a school, the first thing you'd meet are lots of cute puppies. They'd flock to your feet. But why stop at puppies? Why not a whole zoo? So I'd add a bunch of big animals too. You guys see the puppies down here? I even put a robot dog, and there's a little dog in a wheelchair too. Would you guys like to have a big zoo as you enter your school? Wouldn't that be fun? Oh, I think that'd be so cool. Right off the lobby, to get to your class, I'd set up a system of tubes made of glass. You hop in the pod, press the number, then zoom. In under 10 seconds, you're right at your room. There's Jack's dog. He's waiting for him in the pod. And there's some kids in one of the pods zipping off to the classroom. Oh, that'd be so much fun. All of the classrooms are built onto towers that sprout from the schoolyard like colorful flowers. And like giant petals that welcome the day, the roofs open up in a similar way. Panels fold back and they let in the sun, which frankly makes being there that much more fun. You can see some of the kids in some of their classrooms. And way down here, there's a pod entering, and the kids are entering the classroom through their little pod. Now come see your classroom. Isn't it grand? That free-floating platform is where you would stand. And using a stylus, you write in the air. No blackboard, no whiteboard, no nothing is there. Your words just appear and they magically glow. Don't ask how this works, because I don't really know. There's even a fish tank built into the front of the teacher's desk that floats around the classroom. I love fish tanks. And I want to show you guys a secret. You ready? I haven't pointed this out to anybody. Over here in the bookcase, I put the Mercy Watson books in the bookcase. But you're not the only one floating around. Check out the desks. They don't touch the ground. These are my hover desks. See how they glide? They even have bumpers in case you collide. Don't those desks look kind of like the car from If I Built a Car? You're going to see things in this book that are sort of similar to that. In my kind of classes, we wouldn't have tests. I'd liven things up with some hologram guests. Here are some samples of what I've been thinking. You might meet a T-Rex or Abraham Lincoln. Do you know what a hologram is? A hologram is kind of like a blue sort of floating light model of these people and creatures. So this is not really real. It's kind of this floating, and you kind of see, sometimes you can see the things going through, the backgrounds going through it a little bit. So it's kind of a clear blue hologram. The library's next, so let's have a look. You won't find your everyday regular book. These books come alive when removed from the racks. They pop up like pop-ups, but pop to the max. And if you're not sure what a book is about, you'll find out quite quickly when something pops out. So of course, Jack is reading Jack and the Beanstalk, and there's a huge beanstalk popping out of the book. But look over here. Look at what I put over here. So way in this corner, there's a little boy reading If I Built a Car, and there's the car from my own book popping out of the book. It's off to the gym, and this place is so cool. Around it, please note my perimeter pool. The pool's a deep oval that everyone likes. You race underwater on submarine bikes. Up there is my trampoline basketball court. It's partly a bounce house and partly a sport. There's also a rock wall, and here's something new. I've added some skydiving wind tunnels too. Wouldn't you love to have a gym like that? I would love to have a submarine bicycle. That would be the coolest. I just heard the lunch bell, so let's go and eat. I'd like you to meet my new Robo Chef, Pete. He's 20 feet tall and he spins on a gear. You order your lunch in this microphone here, and Pete can make anything, simple or weird, from PB and jelly to squid lightly seared. I actually like squid. It's now time for recess. Let's head out the door. My playground is awesome. So much to explore. Fly on the zip line way up in the sky, or slide down the twisty slide 3 stories high. And after all that, if you're hot and you're beat, then you can go tubing. Now that would be sweet. This is a lot of kids' favorite page in the book. And there's all sorts of things to look at, including a go-kart track that zips around. And look at the go-karts. They look just like the car from If I Built a Car. And of course, the tubing river, the lazy river, goes all the way through the school, even under a waterfall, through the mountain. And it goes all the way back here and around the playground. So, and if you guys like horses, you can even go and ride horses in the paddock over there. So it'll be a really fun place to spend some time. In art, we use sprayers to splash out the paint. In music, we're loud, but our teacher's a saint. And over in science, just one of the features is lab-grown, genetically modified creatures. Look at that chicken rhinoceros. Isn't that funny? We'll visit new places, travel, explore, because we'll go on field trips galore. My specialty buses will tote us around. They dive underwater, they blast off the ground. And yes, they have wheels like our regular cars, which neatly retract when we rocket to Mars. That's what I imagine it would look like on Mars. I even put some little Martian men over here. And there's some crazy little bird lizard thingies flying over there. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but my favorite thing is this creature. Look back here. It's a giant space worm, and you can see his back end back here. It's a huge worm looking up over the rocks. My school will amaze you. My school will astound. By far the most fabulous school to be found. Perfectly planned and impeccably clean. On a scale 1 to 10, it's more like 15. And learning is fun in a place that's fun too. I bet you guys know the last line. If I built a school, that's just what I'd do. Now I want to go back and I want to show you one thing before we show you the end papers. I don't know if you guys know this, but I always hide Mr. Mcgee in my book somewhere because he was my very first character. So I have sort of a special connection with Mr. Mcgee. And if you haven't noticed yet, I'm going to point him out. He's right over there. He's walking up to the school with his little dog Dee. And all of the kids are entering school too. I know schools had to close down because of this pandemic, but boy, when it opened back up, wouldn't you love to go to a school like this? All right, let's look at those last end papers. Again, this is the section at the end of the book. And this time, Jack has drawn this giant drawing of the school we just talked about. Now, the reason I didn't want this in the front of the book is because it would sort of give away the surprise of the school. So this is kind of his ideas. And at the end, you have his school that he's worked on. And it has all the features and all the things that he's talked about in the classroom, like field trip to Mars. They're blasting off in the school bus, and here's where the school buses drop off. And there's all sorts of little things pointed out in these pictures. A lot of kids like to spend time looking at those. And there's the back cover. So that's the story. And I wanted to show you one more thing before we open it up to some questions. I have an illustration that I want to show you. This is an original illustration. I hope I can show it to you. It is under plastic, so I don't want it to be too shiny. I'm going to try to hold it so it doesn't get much glare. But this is the actual painting I did for If I Built a House. And this is Jack and his mom in the kitchen-o-mat. And all those robotic arms are working on things like making food and washing dishes and serving a big cheeseburger to Jack. And look at Jack's dog. Jack's dog looks very hungry. And the mom seems to like this too. So this is the actual original illustration. There's a big blank spot right up here. And I have to leave a blank spot in all my illustrations because I have to leave space for where the words go. So the words are added on by the publisher, the company that makes the book, puts the book together. So even though I've written the words, they will print the words right up in there. That's why that's a big blank spot. And other than that, I just paint all these details and try to add as much detail as possible because when I was a kid, I always liked books that had a lot of detail. But check out these chrome arms. Oh man, when I started painting those, I thought, uh-oh, I made a mistake. I'm going to be here for years painting all those reflections on all those arms. But I'm glad I spent the time because I think it sort of adds to that sort of mid-century modern sort of retro kind of space age Jetsons kind of look, which I wanted. And up here is the menu for the day. So you go into the kitchen and it tells you what's on the menu and then it cooks it up and serves it to you. That'd be a cool kitchen to have, wouldn't it? So I want to show you a couple more things before we go to questions. I'm working, like I said, I'm working on a new book right now. In fact, I just started the final illustrations for this book. And the book is kind of like a little bit like the circus ship in that it's based on a true story that happened off the coast of Maine. But it's present day. It's not done in the past. Like the circus ship took place back in the 1830s because that's when the real ship sank. And that's the one I based the book on. But this happens in present day. And I showed you that big truck that I was working on. So this has to deal with a truck that is going out to one of the islands and something bad happens. I can't tell you too much because the publisher doesn't want me to tell you. But I can show you some sketches. And I can show you, this is the sketch I have for the first page of the book. And it even has the type in place. I'll read it to you. Out on the ocean, one bright summer day, bound for an island still 5 miles away, a tugboat was towing a truck on a barge, a truck that was hauling a load extra large. So it's this really big truck on a really big barge. And you can see down here in the corner, there's a lobsterman. He's kind of waving to the guy on the tugboat. It's pulling it out to the island. I want to show you one more sketch that I did. This is the next page in the book. And look at the detail I added to this sketch. And I haven't done this painting yet, but this is what the sketch looks like. And it says, the cargo it carried was all under wraps, bound to the trailer with buckles and straps, facing a twisty and treacherous ride to get to the field on the island's east side. But look at all the things I've had. So there's the truck and the barge, and there's some little houses in the harbor, and there's where the boat's going to join in, and all the little details up here. You even added like a seagull up here in the corner. Actually, I kind of had to tape him in because I made a mistake on the first one. So sometimes my sketches are kind of taped together and stuff like that. But this is a book that I'm working on now. I will probably finish up the illustrations I think they're due in November. And then it'll take another year for the book to be printed. So unfortunately, it won't be out until probably fall or late fall next year, 2021. And here's the funny thing. I don't even have a title for it yet. I've suggested all these titles. My editor kind of likes some, kind of doesn't like others. And so I really haven't figured out exactly what the title is going to be yet. So I'm still thinking about that. So I can't even tell you the title of the book, but look for it because it will be coming out. It's going to be published by Candlewick Press, which are down in Massachusetts, and it's going to be coming out next fall. So I'm really excited about that. That's what I'm going to be working on all summer. I'm going to be working on those paintings. Usually a painting like this, one of these illustrations that goes across 2 pages, that's called a spread illustration. That sometimes can take me like 2, sometimes 3 weeks to paint. And if you guys are familiar with the book, The Circus Ship, there's a page on the back of the circus ship where all the animals are hidden in this one big village scene. And that illustration took me about 5 weeks to paint. I didn't think I was ever going to get done with that illustration. It just took forever. But if you look closely, there's a lot of detail in that illustration. And the more detail I add, the more time it takes. So I just have to paint all those details. So we've gone for about a half an hour. And if we want to open it up to questions, I think you guys might have some things you want to ask me. So can we do that now, Candy?
Sure, we can do that. We've got lots of raised hands. Before that, while we're waiting for a couple of people. Whoop, somebody's talking.
I hear somebody.
Hello? Patrick, is that you?
Yes.
Am I here?
Do you have a question?
Patrick, do you have a question for Chris?
We do. We want to know what kind of antelope is that in the circus ship?
I'm sorry. Did you ask me a question? I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that, please?
Certainly. We want to know what kind of antelope that is in the circus ship.
I still didn't get. I'm getting. Did you get that, Candy?
No, I didn't quite. Try one more time, please.
We want to know what kind of antelope that is in the circus ship.
It's something about the circus ship, but I'm not getting the first part of your question.
What kind of antelope?
Wait, is it you? Okay, go ahead. Say it again, please. I'm sorry.
What kind of antelope is that?
Okay, I got it that time. Okay, so I get that. The question was, what kind of antelope is in the circus ship? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, that question I get asked so many times. You would not believe how many times I have been asked that question. Even getting emails from people all over the world asking me what kind of antelope that is. And had I known that I'd be asked so much about that, I would have made it a specific antelope. But the antelope in the circus ship is actually a combination of a bunch of different antelopes. And I just sort of created this antelope that I thought would look kind of cool. But it's not a specific species. It's just kind of a combination of a bunch of antelopes. So I guess you can call it whatever you want, but I probably should have made it a specific animal because I do get asked that question a lot. That's a good one.
It's a Christian antelope.
Anybody else?
All right, it looks like Harvey
Say hi, Chris. Wave. Hi.
Hi,
Wave.
Crispy and Dusen. It's
Hi,
me.
Harvey.
Lee.
Say, wait. Talk.
Is that Harvey that's been writing letters to me?
Yes.
Hi, Harvey. Which I can't see you on the screen. Where are you? Can you wave?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, Harvey, good to see
Hang
you.
on.
Do you have a question?
thank you.
There he is.
No, I don't have a
Just say
question.
thank you for your letters.
Thank you for your letters.
Oh, well, thank you for your letters and your drawings. They're so nice. Can I I've got one of yours right here, Harvey. Can I show our other friends the drawing you did for me?
Mhm.
This one right here. Remember you drew this picture?
Mhm.
It says, "My name is Smokey. Remember, only you can prevent forest fires." Boy, that's a good lesson, especially since it's been so dry. That's a good drawing, Harvey. Thank you so much for sending that to me. It's nice to see your face.
Thank you for doing this today.
Oh, sure. Sure. It's nice to be here with you guys. Thanks for joining us. Anybody else have a question?
How about Aaron O'Brien?
Hi, I'm a little older than everyone else. I just graduated high school a few weeks ago, and I'm
Amen.
going to art school this fall. And I was curious, as an aspiring illustrator, what advice do you have for this career and the navigating the road ahead?
Great question. Thanks for joining us. I can't see you on the screen, but I can answer your question. Let's see. The advice I give to people if they want to be an illustrator, do you want to illustrate children's books? Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes.
Okay. So I would just I would first try to use your imagination and come up with some great stories. And a lot of times what is a good thing to do is to find books that you really like. When I was in college and before I even started thinking about writing children's books, I was fascinated with picture books. And that was when Chris Van Allsburg, not Chris Van Dusen, but Chris Van Allsburg, who did the Polar Express and all these great books, had just started writing books. And they were so different from everything else that I just studied those illustrations. They were so beautiful. And he's won the Caldecott a couple times. He's pretty amazing. So I would first look at books that you really like and sort of see what appeals to you in these books. And then the next thing I would do is I would just say, draw all the time. Draw, anything, just the more you draw, the better you're going to become at it as being an illustrator. And then when you get good at sort of drawing, and sometimes you can copy things too. Like when I was a kid, Mad Magazine was really popular. And I used to copy pictures from Mad Magazine, and that helped increase my drawing skills. But I would encourage you to draw from life. And by that, I mean, go out and take a pad of paper or a sketchbook or something and go out and draw something actually looking at it. You know what I mean? So let's say there's a really cool sort of apple tree in your backyard. An apple tree is can be all twisty. Sit down by the tree and try to draw from just looking at it, from direct observation, because that really helps. And it really hones your skills. So the more you draw, the better you're going to become. And then you'll also be able to build up a portfolio that you'll be able to present to a school when it's time to go off to school in the fall or college. And you might want to pick, state schools have really good art programs, but there are also specific art schools that are really good too that will help you. But good luck and keep at it and just keep drawing. That's my best advice.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good luck. I hope to see a book of yours someday in a store. Anybody else?
How about Jared Roxby?
Does Jared have a question?
See me.
Over. So I wanted to say that you made me a book that was my favorite. It was called If I Built a Car.
Oh, I'm glad you like that book.
Yeah, and it also said happy birthday to me because now I am 5 2/3.
So did you get the book for your birthday?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. And I signed it for you? Did I sign it for you?
Yep, you did.
Excellent. Oh, I'm so glad you still have the book, and I'm so glad you're still reading it. That makes me feel so good. So you'll be 6 in like a quarter of a year, right?
I'd be 6 on October 24th.
Well, if I don't see you before then, happy birthday. I hope you have a really nice summer and a really great birthday.
Yep.
And can I tell you a secret?
What?
Well, it's not really a secret because I'm telling everybody, but I am working on another If I Built book. And I can't really tell you too much about it because the publisher doesn't like me to give away surprises, but it will feature Jack. And this time he's building something even bigger than a car or a house or a school. He's thinking really big. And it's probably my favorite If I Built story yet. So it'll still be a few years before that comes out because I've got a bunch of other books to do between then, but it'll be worth the wait, I promise.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, how about Zach? I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce your last name. Bayato?
My question is, are you gonna build like a or write an If I Built a Plane book?
You know, Zach, that's a really good question. I appreciate you asking that. A lot of kids have suggested what Jack should build next. And one of the reasons I haven't done like a boat or a rocket or a plane like you mentioned is, do you remember that? Well, let me just grab it here. Do you remember in this book, Jack's car can do all those things. Like it goes underwater, it goes in the water. You know, first of all, it goes in the water and then it goes underwater like a submarine. And then it takes off like a rocket ship and it flies like a plane. So I didn't want to repeat myself and do the same thing in another book. So unfortunately, I kind of covered all bases when I wrote If I Built a Car, because the car can do all those other things. But I'm going to include some of those things in the new story that hopefully will sort of satisfy some of the kids. But it's really going to be a cool story. I promise.
Okay.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see who's next here. Whoop, hang on. I moved too quickly. How about Zoe?
Go ahead.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi.
Do you have a question? Go ahead.
I think I have a new story for you.
Oh, good. I always need stories. Okay, what you got?
My dog brought home a turkey egg and he hatched it.
Your dog? Your dog brought home a turkey egg and hatched the turkey egg?
Oh my.
Seriously? Oh man, that is a great story. You know what I think, Zoe? I think you should write that story because you know all about it. You could write a great story about that. Do you get to work on that?
Yeah.
That's a really funny story. Did a little baby turkey hatch out of the egg?
Yeah.
Tell them what happened. So the dog brought the egg home, and then what happened?
We brought it to a grandmother's house
Yeah.
and the chicken hatched the turkey egg.
So the chicken kind of adopted the turkey egg and it incubated it and hatched it?
Yeah.
That's a great story. You know, there's one of my favorite authors of all time, and I'm sure you've heard of this guy. His name was Dr. Seuss. And he wrote a book called Horton Hatches the Egg. And it's about an elephant who's hatches an egg for a lazy bird. The bird flies off and he has to take care of the egg. And he hatches it. And you know what happens? I don't know if you read the story, but when it hatches, it looks like an elephant bird. It's got an elephant head and a bird's body. And it's a really funny story. If you haven't read it, it kind of reminds me of the story you were telling me about. But that's a great story. I can't believe that actually happened. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to go through a few little Facebook messages here, Chris.
Okay.
Lots of thank yous
Oh,
in your wonderful books. And one little girl said, wants you to know that we named our dog Hattie after the girl in your book.
oh, that's great. Thank you.
Another Gabby Pierce, the fish tank is one of her kids' favorite features in the book.
Oh, yeah.
We've got somebody watching from Rhode Island, but
Oh,
in Maine, so they always get some extra Maine books of yours.
thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you.
The Bilodeaus are loving the reading. Michaela Smith says hi. Gail Martin says that's awesome. Another one's watching from Massachusetts, and thanks for your books. Darcy Poulin's 8-year-old Campion is wondering, have you ever written a chapter book?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have not written a chapter book. A lot of kids have asked me if I'm ever going to do that. I might at some point. I don't have any plans right now to write a chapter book because I don't really have a story to write yet. But it might happen. You never know. But I kind of think of myself more as an illustrator who writes a little bit as opposed to a writer that illustrates a little bit, if that makes sense. So I think I'm a little bit stronger with the artwork than I am with the writing. I don't know. That's kind of a toss-up, but I think it'd be really hard to write a chapter book for me. But I'm not going to say I'm never going to do it because I might give it a try at some point. So,
Colette, age 6, wants somebody to buy that next book on pre before it comes out.
somebody to buy it, yeah.
Yep. Christine says you should get a Zoomer Award for reading. Evie in Kennebunk wants to know what breed of dog is D.
Oh, D is just kind of like a little beagle mutt type dog. I think D looks a lot like Snoopy in a lot of ways. When I was a kid, I loved the comic strip Peanuts and Charlie Brown and Snoopy. And so I think D looks a little bit like Snoopy in a way, but D is just kind of like a mutt. And Jack has a dog too. His dog right there, a lot of kids think that's the same dog because they kind of look similar. Although if you look, there's different coloring on those. Jack's dog's name is Rex. And he's, again, just kind of like a mutt. But I like putting different types of dogs in my book. I put a corgi in one of my books. I put a pug in King Hugo's Huge Ego, which was really fun. And in the book I'm working on now that I showed you a couple sketches for, there is going to be a boxer in the book somewhere. Boxers are kind of like, they kind of a bulldog kind of face, kind of a stout muzzle. And they're really cool dogs. So I'm going to put a boxer in there. So I like doing different. Oh, and there's a sheepdog in there too, a big shaggy sheepdog too. So I like to put the different types of dogs in there.
Well, let's see. We got a few that just popped up. Guys, you're being so patient with your raised hands. I promise we will get to you, but I'm going to try to finish up some of these Facebook posts, go back to the raised hands, and then we'll look at the Zoom chat after that. Let's see. Orion wants to know where the robot is in your book.
In the new one that we just read?
Well, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking so.
Okay. There are a couple robots in the If I Built a School, and I will show you those very quickly. The first picture when you go into the school, we looked at this zoo picture, but if you look closely, let me see if I can put it here. So you can see there's like a robot attending the front desk or the reception area of the school. So that's one robot. And then there's also, when we went to the lunchroom, there was a, oops, let me see, next page. There's the giant big robot chef, Pete, and he makes all the food. You can see his little pots simmering on his little stand beside him. So he makes the food. So there are a couple of robots in there. I don't know, for some reason, I just love putting robots in books. So they always sort of pop up somewhere.
think it has something to do with that little collection you have there.
Yeah, that little robot guy's back there.
All right, let's see here. Well, we have somebody from Ontario, Canada watching, and she just loves your books and wants to thank you for wonderful stories.
Oh, thanks for joining us. Nice to hear you.
Avery and Quentin are in Marblehead, and they want to say thank you for your books.
Nice to see you guys in Marblehead. I love Marblehead. Been there a bunch of times.
I'm
Yep.
going to probably not pronounce this name correctly, but Sitots, age 10, is wondering when and why you decided to write and illustrate books.
Good question. Well, for a long time, I was just an illustrator and I did illustrations for magazines, a lot of kids magazines. And I never really thought I'd write a story, but it was something that sort of interested me, but I didn't think it would ever actually happen. But then like Candy was saying in the introduction, one day I was working on an illustration and this picture just kind of popped into my head, and it was an image of a guy and his dog in a boat stuck way up in a tree. Does that sound familiar? Well, it became Mr. Mcgee, but I sort of built that story around that sketch. I sort of started thinking about that sketch and I was like, well, why would this image pop in my head? And how did that guy get stuck in the tree? And how does he get down from the tree? So all those things sort of came into play. And it took me several years. It took me about 9 years to put that book all together. And I just sort of worked on it in my spare time. And sometimes I would, write a little bit here, write a little bit there. It changed a lot. At one point, the whales actually could talk, and I didn't like that. So I changed things around a lot. But then when it got published, it was so exciting when I finally received my book, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to go back and do a lot of magazine illustrations. I just wanted to create books. And luckily, enough kids liked the book that I was able to do that. So my second book was called A Camping Spree with Mr. Mcgee. And then came If I Built a Car, and then Circus Ship and King Hugo and Randy Riley. All these other books sort of came out of my imagination. So it's so much fun to be able to stay home, create these picture books for kids and do these illustrations. And it's kind of a dream job. I just love doing what I do.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to have a couple more here. Oh my goodness, and we'll take a break. First off, Morgan Brittany from WABI TV is here, wants to share part of this program on the news
Sure.
tonight. And
Hi, Morgan. Thank you. Thank you so much, Morgan. I appreciate that.
she wants to know, how does it feel to reach so many kids through Zoom? We've popped up around 100, I think.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Well, had I known there were 100 kids, I would probably be more nervous than I am. But
Well, that's actually Zoom and Facebook Live together, but you're reaching
Yeah.
100 kids.
But it feels great. When I go to book signings, and we've had to kind of put those on hold because of the coronavirus, but when I go around to schools and libraries and book signings, it's always so rewarding to see people come and bring their books to have signed or to hear a story. I mean, it's kind of funny because, I stay here. I showed you my studio. I stay here and I work at home most of the time. And sometimes when I'm by myself for so long, I think, is anybody going to even see this book? And I kind of, but then when it comes out and I get emails from kids and, reviews start coming in and people are enjoying the stories and the illustrations, it's so rewarding. You feel like, wow, this is, it kind of feels like it's making a difference. I'm not sure it is, but it feels like that. So it's a very, very good feeling.
All right, one more from Facebook, and then I'll know where I stopped. Then we'll jump back over to the raised hands.
Okay.
This family from Booth Bay wants to thank you for your daily readings.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so let me add to that, because I was doing these readings on, it was on my Instagram page, which is Chris Van Dusen Books, because there's another Chris Van Dusen on Instagram. But if you go to Chris Van Dusen Books on Instagram, you will find some of my readings. And when this virus first hit and all the kids got sent home from school and everybody was like home, kind of just staying quarantined and by themselves, I decided one of the things I could do is I could just record myself reading the stories. But I ran out of books because I only have I read the books that I've written and illustrated. I didn't read the Mercy Watson books or any of those. And I think I've only written 10 books. So after I finished those 10 books, I didn't know what to do. So I started this other thing, which is also on the Instagram page, called Chris Van Doodles. It's kind of a funny name, but I was doing sort of little drawing tutorials about how to draw some of the characters in some of my books, and then I would receive these feedback from kids who had drawn along with me, and it was really cool. They'd send me pictures of Eugenia Lincoln looking all mad, and they did a really good job. So that was a lot of fun too. But I had to kind of put that on hold too, because like I said, I got a new book to work on, and those are kind of taking a lot of time, and I have to buckle down and get to work now.
All right, let's go back over to a few raised hands, and it looks like we've got quite a chat going on Zoom as well. So
right.
Abby Karen, where are you, Abby?
Right here.
There.
Hi, Abby.
Hi.
Did you have a question?
Yeah. So, what's your process for making books usually?
Good question. Okay, so it usually comes with an idea first. I come up with an idea, and then I start writing it. And sometimes when I'm writing it, let me grab something real quick that I can show you. See, these are all the papers I've used to create the new book that I'm working on. But I want to show you one thing in particular, if I can find it and all here. Let's see, hold on. I want to show you what I start with, because, oh, here it is, right here. I start with this thing called kind of a story map or a story summary. And so what I will do is I will have a piece of paper that looks like this, and it has all the pages laid out. I'm going to show you some of this. So sometimes I will do these little sketches, just little, stick figure sketches to figure out what's going to happen on each page. So I do this first, and that's how I sort of plot out the story. Then I write the story, and I don't use a computer because it takes me forever to type. So I just write it out and piece it all together and make sure it works. And sometimes I have to change it over and over and over again to make it just right. Once the story is all complete and I like the way the story is come together, then I can actually start some of the sketches. And the sketches start very rough at first. They're very scribbly and rough. And then I get them tighter and tighter and tighter. So the ones I showed you earlier are some of the final sketches that I will do the artwork from. So I'll take those and I'll transfer them to board. So the whole process takes about a year to write a story, because you have to write the story, and that's, again, like a lot of editing, self-editing there. And then you have to do all the sketches. And sometimes I have to sketch a page, oh gosh, sometimes, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before I get the picture the way I want it to look. And then I have to tighten those all up so they're really fine and all the detail is shown. And then I have to transfer it to board and do the actual painting. So it takes a long time to make a book, about a year. But that's in a nutshell, that's kind of the process, how it goes. Good question.
All right, thanks, Abby. Sam.
You have done some writing, right?
Yep, I've done some writing.
So do you have any advice on the writing process?
Good question, Sam. I have done some writing. I sort of consider myself an illustrator more than a writer, but the advice I would give to you if you want to write stories is, first of all, just let your imagination run wild, because you can do anything in a story, right? You can take people places they've never seen. You can just describe things that they've never even heard of. So you can just let your imagination go wild. And I would just say, write what you want to write about. The problem I have sometimes is some people say, you should write a book about this. And I was like, I don't really want to write a book about this. I want to write a book about this. And when I write about a book about what I want to write about, it's so much better than if somebody says, you should write about a stray dog. Well, I don't really want to write about a stray dog right now. I want to write about a big truck. And so I'll write my own stories. So I would say use your imagination and just write down some really cool stories and just keep writing. Again, like drawing, the more you write, the better you're going to become, and you're going to come up with some great stories. And then I can read them when they're published in a book. Great question, Sam. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. All right, how about Aiden? You there, Aiden?
Wait, say hi. All right, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Aiden.
Talk about how to build a
Can't
giant.
quite see you yet, but I can hear you. So there you are. There you are. Hi, Aiden. How you doing?
If you would make like this book of how to make a giant, that'd be cool.
How to make a giant?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. You know, a lot of kids have suggested if I built a robot. And, you know, I showed you the robots behind me, and I love robots, and that would be a great book. But again, I kind of jumped the gun on this because I wrote a book. Oh, I don't have it right here. I got it back there, called Randy Riley's Really Big Hit. And in that story, a boy named Randy Riley makes a giant robot. And so I can't really write the same story all over again. So, but I do like that idea. I think that'd be really cool. If I built a giant. Hey, I got an idea. Why don't you write that story? And then I can read it. Does that sound good?
Mhm.
Okay.
You want to say bye?
Bye.
Bye, buddy.
Okay, Kira, how about you? Kira Bailey.
What gave you the idea to write the If I Built a School book?
Hi, Kira. That's a great question. So I had written If I Built a Car, and I wrote If I Built a House. And I would go around to schools. A lot of times I visit schools, and I would read the stories. And a funny thing started happening when I got back home here. Like a few days later in the mail, I would get a package from the school I just visited. And a lot of times it would be the kids had made their own book. And it would almost always, it was If I Built a School. And I thought, wow, they've taken If I Built a Car, If I Built a House, and created If I Built a School. And it turns out that I received about 10 or 12 different versions of If I Built a School. And finally, my wife, actually, it was my wife that said, you know, you really should write that story. And I thought, well, maybe I should, because a lot of kids are suggesting this and they want to see this story. So I called my publisher and I said, do you guys want me to write If I Built a School? And my publisher said, yes, that would be awesome. So that's why I did that, If I Built a School. And after that book came out, it came out right before school started last year. And so many teachers use that like on the first day of school to read to their students. So it really became part of the school system and part of the reading system. And it was so cool that that happened. But that's really how it happened. That's how that book came about.
Also, I wrote and illustrated my own children's book called The Chicken Who Did Not Cross the Road.
I love it. I love it. Did you have fun doing that?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. I'm glad you do that. And so you like to write? Do you like to illustrate too? Do you like to draw pictures?
I like to draw.
That's so cool. Well, keep at it. Maybe someday I'll come to one of your book signings. How about that? That's a great question, Kira. Thank you so much. Congratulations on your own book.
Thanks.
Okay, how about Emily Kennedy?
What was your favorite book that you made?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I get asked that a lot, actually. Sometimes it's kind of hard for me to pick just one because I like them all for different reasons. And it does, like I say, it takes about a year to make a book. So if you have to spend a year making a book that you don't really like, that's kind of pretty lousy. But if I had to pick just one, if someone said, no, you have to just pick one of your stories, I think it might be The Circus Ship. I really do like that story. I like the way that turned out. Do you know The Circus Ship? Yeah, that's a fun story. And then there's that picture in the back, like we talked about before, with all the animals hiding. That's really kind of like it's almost like a game in the story. So that makes it even more fun. So I think it probably, if I had to pick one, it would be the circus ship. Thank you for that question. That's a good question.
Lots of the Zoom chat are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. New books, new books, new books. We love Mercy Watson. Let's see. One says, my son Patrick would like to know, oh, we did the antelope already. Yep.
Yeah.
What about if I built a city?
Mhm.
Somebody says hi because I met you in Castine.
Oh,
Let
I
me
had a fun
see.
time in Castine.
How about if I built an aquarium?
Ooh, I do like that idea. I love aquariums. Remember for my, I think it was my 9th birthday, I was living in Massachusetts at that time, and my dad took me and some of my best friends, and we all went to the New England Aquarium in Boston. Oh, it just opened up. It was brand new, and it was so cool, all full of fish.
All right, well, we've got similar questions to those that you've already answered, like what's your favorite books? And the thing about, well, one says Chris Van Dusen rocks. There you go.
I like that.
Something
Thank you.
about who has Roblox, and other kids are complaining that they don't have the new book yet. So
Well, I got to finish it first.
somebody will be. And let's see, where did you get the truck?
Where did I get the truck? I got the truck, actually, I think it was on Amazon. But
All right.
I needed a specific big truck as a model to draw the pictures in the book, and it's really come in handy. So.
And continue on the truck idea. They have a title suggestion.
Oh, good. All right.
A truckload of trouble.
I'm going to write that down. I like that. A truckload of trouble. Okay. Thank you for that idea.
Couple more here on Zoom. How did the boat crash in the circus ship?
Okay, so in my story, it ran into a ledge on a foggy evening, and they didn't see the ledge, and it sank. But in the real story that the book is based on, the real shipwreck that the story is based on, that ship actually caught fire, and it caught fire because they got caught in a storm off of Vinyl Haven, which is off of Mid-Coast, Maine, sort of where I live here in Camden, and they fired up the boiler, which is like a big pot where they boil water, and the steam powers these paddles on the side of the boat. But there was no water in the boiler, and the ship actually caught fire. So the real ship caught fire. But I thought that was a little too scary to describe to kids. So I decided to change it and make the ship sink in the fog just by running into a ledge. But there is a fire in the book, as you guys probably know, where a little girl gets trapped. And that's really the part of the story where everything sort of comes together, because it's the circus tiger that saves the girl from the fire. And then everybody realizes that these animals are really amazing. So they decide to sort of befriend them and keep them on the island if they could.
Tires on Jude's bike.
All right, let's see.
I have no idea.
You say they were 20 inches?
I think it was like 20 or 14.
A couple of different people, then we'll go back to the raised hands. A couple of different people have asked about why you decided to use the mid-century retro modern space feel in these books.
Yeah, a lot of my books are sort of based in like the 50s or the 60s, that kind of retro look. And I like that look because that's when I was a little kid. I was in well, not the 50s, but the 60s. I was a little kid, and there were really cool things then. You know, the colors were sort of pastel and kind of aquas and oranges and stuff, and everything was kind of space age looking. And there was a television show on when I was a kid that I used to love to watch. It was called The Jetsons. And I think they've done Jetson movies and stuff, but it used to be a regular television show, and it came on at night, I think. like a sitcom, and I used to love it. And it was all about this family that lived in the future, and you know, their food came out of this little machine, and they had a robot maid that sort of zipped around their apartment, and their apartment was way up on top of a glass dome on the top of this pole, and they zipped around in little space cars, and I love that stuff. So I'm sure that the Jetsons really influenced the look of some of those retro books, like the If I Built books are kind of like that.
Somebody named Andrew that typed in, he has a question. Andrew, you there?
Yeah.
Is that Andrew? Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So in the if I built a house book,
Mhm.
in the page where there's like the race car,
Mhm.
the same race cars are in the If I Built a School book.
That's right.
Do
So
you do that?
yeah, a lot of times what I will do is I will take something that occurred in an earlier book and put it in the new book. And I do that a lot, especially in the If I Built books. You'll see like some of the same characters reoccur. And you're right. The little go-karts, they zip around in the racetrack room. And If I Built a House are also the same little cars. They zip around on the track in the playground in If I Built a School. Good spotting. That's awesome. Did you find Mr. McGee and his little dog Dee in If I Built a House? Because they're in there too. You'll find him in some of his pictures. He's actually driving his little Rambler by the house. In one of the pictures. Yeah.
Here?
There he is. That's him. Yeah. And the woman in the spotted dress walking the pink poodle next to him, she appears in If I Built a Car. I'll show you that picture. She is right. Oops. She is right here. See?
Oh yeah.
So some of those things reoccur in some of the books. It's just kind of fun. It gives kids something to find in each one of the books that's similar. So it's kind of a fun thing. Good spotting though. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so Dora Schweier. Assuming
I have a comic book that I want to show you but it's not done yet.
Okay. Did you do this all on your own, Dora?
This is Yulia. Yes, she did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Only a little help.
Yeah.
This is the
Wow, look at that. Bad guys come to, what does it say? Take over the world?
It's under the book.
Whoa. That is awesome. You're a really good artist. I like
And
that.
then I got the people that's going to be in the...
You've got the people.
Some of those characters look so mean.
Because they are.
Wow.
They
Yeah.
Are they based on the Narwhal comic book or no? No.
This is the next page.
Whoa, look at those drawings. Can I see those? Whoa, Batman and Batgirl. Did you draw those all by yourself?
Mama helped a little with them.
Well, those are really awesome. You're a very good artist. I hope you keep drawing. You're just going to get better and better and better and better. And then you can take over my job for me, okay? Yeah, those are great. That is so cool. It looks like
I already got a library of books.
You do? That's awesome. Thank you for showing that to me. That is so cool.
Shelves are. Thank you. I
hope.
One more thing. I have my shelves are crammed with books and Legos.
Books, boy, doesn't get any better than that. Books and Legos.
I need to get more shelves.
Yeah, you need more shelves. I'll write more books, and you can get more shelves.
Yeah, we can wait for your new book.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for showing me that. I thought that was awesome.
Okay, Ryan Witt.
Ryan, I know Ryan. Hi, buddy.
Hey, hi, Ben. Do you remember Mr. Van Dusen?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Question?
Hi, Ryan.
Did you
What's my
catch that?
favorite? What's my favorite Dr. Seuss book?
Yep.
Oh boy. I think if I had to pick one, it's probably Horton Hears a Who. I think that's just an incredible story, and very exciting and scary and sad and happy and funny and just everything you want in a book. So I think if I had to pick just one, although I really like If I Ran the Circus too, which is those books I based my If I Built books on those books. But Horton Hears a Who is probably my favorite. I love that book.
Great. Yeah, I like your head. Yeah, we like that one too. We haven't read you said If I Built a Circus.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. You ought to try it. And it's kind
Okay,
of
well-
similar. I mean, I definitely kind of picked up things for my books from those books. So you'll see when you read it. And I'm
Okay.
glad to see you're back home and everybody's back together. That's awesome.
We are, and here's little Maggie and Kate. So
Oh, good to see you guys. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks
So
for
we
joining us.
saw the advertisement on your Facebook page. So we'll let some others ask their questions. But nice chatting with you, and thanks for doing this for the kids.
Yeah, and you guys are all well.
We're doing great. Thank you.
Good, good. Good to hear it. Nice to see you.
All right, Chris, we're going to skip back over to Facebook. I think we're almost through, everybody. Let's see here. Okay, Karen Boole McWilliam, her kids want to know if Jack's dad is Mr. Mcgee.
Some kids have thought that. Actually, Jack's dad looks almost exactly like my dad, and he's based on my dad. And when I remember when I first showed that book to my dad was kind of like, he was kind of surprised. He said, oh, that guy looks kind of familiar. And so he's definitely based on my dad. He looks like that. So it's not Mr. Mcgee, but it's someone even closer to me, my dad, that character's based on.
All right, how about once this pandemic is over, will you be doing school visits again?
Absolutely. I can't wait. It was funny because I had a bunch of school visits planned this spring. And then all the schools had to close down. So I was unable to visit a lot of schools. So a lot of those have rescheduled, and hopefully I'll be able to come around and see some of you guys next spring when school resumes. Because I don't think we're planning anything for this fall. Everything's still kind of up in the air. Nobody's really sure what's going to happen. But yeah, I'm going to try to get back to your classes as quickly as I can because I want to see you guys.
All right, well, one mother, I do believe it was a mother, said that she kept referencing the Jetsons whenever she was doing homeschooling this spring.
Yeah,
then,
the Jets. Yeah.
Suzanne Kramer says, hi, thank you for adding a little excitement to our summer. We're wondering whether you've ever painted yourself into the illustrations of a book.
No, I never have. I've never put like a secret self-portrait. That'd be funny, actually. But I can tell you that the character that's probably most autobiographical is Randy Riley, even though I don't look exactly like Randy Riley. He was, I always wanted to play baseball, and I just never could quite, athletically, I was never quite as good as some of my friends. And so, but I could draw really well, and I kept drawing. And so I sort of found my success by being an artist and an illustrator, and not on the baseball field. So he's the character probably most autobiographical.
All right, Zach, you say that Frankie has a question.
Do you want to ask your question, bud?
Hey, Frankie.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Did you want to ask me something?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you get the names of the books?
The names of the book, the titles, you mean?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes titles are kind of hard, actually. Sometimes they pop into my head. Sometimes they pop into my head even before I've written a story. Sometimes I come up with the title first, and then I write the story. But sometimes it takes a long time. Like right now, the book I'm working on, I've actually started the illustrations, but I still don't know what it's going to be called. So it will pop into my head at some point. And sometimes I ask my friends to read the story and suggest titles. And so I have a bunch, but I just haven't found the exact right one yet. And I got to tell you, actually, one of my very favorite titles of all my books is a title of a book called King Hugo's Huge Ego, which is kind of a tongue twister, but that's probably my favorite title. And I can say that because I did not come up with that title. My wife came up with that title. She was the one that suggested that. And I thought it was so perfect that that became the title of the book. So maybe I should have her title my new book. What do you think? She's pretty good at that. That's a good question. Thank you so much for asking that.
Bye.
Bye-bye, buddy.
And? Oh, Serenity. Serenity, are you out there?
Oh, you could just tell them that that's your mom's favorite.
I had a question. If you're gonna build or if you're gonna make a book, like the new book is gonna be if I built a state or a country.
King Hugo's Huge Ego is your
Well, it's not quite that big, but you're kind of on the right line. I can't, like I said, I can't really tell you too much about it, but you're on the right track. So it'll be something kind of like that. Sorry, I can't tell you. I'm sorry, I can't tell you more. I wish I could.
All right.
Okay. How
All
about
right.
how about Eric? I just want to mention some of you have your hands raised again and you've gotten to ask a question. If we have time, I'll try to get back to you. I'm going to try to get all the kids that haven't asked a question yet. So Eric.
King Hugo's Huge Ego is my mom's favorite.
Oh, really? You know, it's funny. That's kind of a funny book.
I have to say, it's one of my favorite of yours to read out loud. So I appreciate you writing a book that is so much fun for us to read out loud to our kids.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that.
All right, let's see. We've almost caught up on Facebook. Well, there's a question about whether you're going to end up visiting Marblehead anytime in the future.
I don't have any plans to come to Marblehead anytime soon. But I did go down and visit the schools there. Oh gosh, it was a long time ago. It was probably like 10 years ago. I visited the schools down there, and my cousin actually used to live in Marblehead too. So I love that town. It's really a sweet town. I love the old homes and the little streets, and it's really cute. So I'd love to come back, but I think we have to let this thing all, clear up and before I do any major traveling. So, but I would definitely like to come back.
How about Charlotte?
Hi, Charlotte.
Horton Hatches an Egg earlier, and I have the book, and there's the elephant bird.
Yeah, that's right. That's the elephant bird. It's so funny. I love that little drawing. Yeah. Thanks for showing that to everybody. I bet they liked seeing that if they weren't familiar with the story. Yep, I've got that same book. I've got it right behind me.
6 books
Yeah.
by Dr. Seuss.
Yep, that's a good one. Thank you so much for showing that to everybody.
And one more thing, I have a lot of your books that are signed, and I shared them with my class.
Nice. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate you doing that. I love it when people who like my books or have my books share them with other people, and they get a chance to see them too. So thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for showing the picture from the book.
Okay, how about Declan? Oop, Declan, you're muted here. Let's see. There you
Hi,
That
Deck.
was my brother and I'm Bryson.
Oh, hi, Bryson.
go. Okay.
Did you have a question?
I wanted to show you this picture.
Whoa, did you draw that?
Yeah. Wow, we were
is-
on Zoom.
That is so good. Look at that. Oh, that's the rhinoceros chicken. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You
This
did
is
all the-
this
That's-
is my modified creatures. Wait,
Yes,
they're here.
that's right. That's from the science room, right? And if I built a school, all the crazy creatures that he combined. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a good drawing.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing that to us.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's see here. There's a comment on Facebook.
Yeah, they're gonna have.
Yeah.
Any new videos with your dog? We loved watching the dog.
No,
Mercy. You know,
I had a dog. I have a dog named Opal. She's not out here in the studio with me. I think she's sleeping down in the kitchen. But she was in one of the videos because she was acting up. She was making a lot of noise in the background, and so we included her. My wife included her in that video, and a lot of people commented on Opal. She's a yellow lab. She's a 5-year-old yellow lab, and she's a great dog.
all right. It looks like Zoe has one last question. And then we didn't really plan this, but we've had a couple of questions about a doodle.
Doodle. Well, doodle. Oh, doing a doodle. Okay. All right. Go
That
ahead with the last question.
possibility. Okay, Zoe. All right, this will be our last raised hand question. It looks like we've caught up on everything else.
Zoe, you've got Randy Riley's really big hit. And you've got If I Built a Car. That's right. And you have A Camping Spree with Mr. Mcgee. Wow, you got the whole collect. Wait, one more. The Circus Ship. Awesome. Those are some of my favorites. Randy Riley's really big hit, by the way, is my wife's favorite book that I've written and illustrated. That's her favorite of mine. So, all right, do you want to start? Oh, and I signed it. Yeah, that's awesome. I must have seen you in some store or something at some point. Good to see you. Did you want, Kenny, did you want to end? I could do a really quick drawing. Let's see if I can do
What do you
this.
think, guys? You think that'd be great? Chris does one of his little doodles for us, and then that will be the end of it. We'll close our program for today. Don't forget, I will be sending out an email to all of you with some information. And for those of you on Facebook, we'll include all of that information in the feed, the chat feed as well. So let's see what you can do, Chris.
All right. Let's see. Now I got to switch this around, and I'm going to try to hold this and draw at the same time. Let's see. Yeah, maybe my wife can hold this for me. Let's see. All right, let's see.
Can we see, do we have it?
Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to draw a quick drawing of Mr. Mcgee's dog, D, because this is my favorite thing to draw. So if you could just position it up a little bit so people can see.
I can't really see what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I can see that there. Okay. So I start with a drawing like this. I start with a line that looks like this. And then we're going to do a line like this, which looks like a sideways heart. And then we'll do a little collar, dog tag. The back will come down like this. There's Dee's little nose and her spot on the back of her.
Can you guys see? Can you see this?
Yep, we can see.
Okay. Now we'll do her front legs, which will come down like this. And then her back legs, which look like that. I'm doing this very fast. And let's do her nose, which is big black nose. Actually, in the book, it's kind of a blue, but we'll make it black here since I get a black. Taking a tongue out, we'll do some spots. How about a big ear? big black floppy ear. Maybe this ear's cocked up like she hears something. And then a couple eyes, and
Ta-da!
just like that. Very, very quick.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for holding that. That was my
Thanks
wife.
for all the help too.
Yeah. Well, it was great to see all you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you keep reading. You got a whole summer full of reading ahead of you. So I hope you get a chance to read some great books. I'm going to read some great books too. And so keep reading, keep writing, and keep drawing. That's my advice to you.
Great. Thanks everybody for coming. And we'll see you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Saying bye.
Bye, Candy.
See you, Chris.
All right.
All right, here we go. We're getting there.
The number's getting lowered.
What, are you gonna hang up?
Only one person left. No, that's chat. This is
There we go.
11, 10 people. Now 9, 8.